Hello, listeners. Welcome to part of the Trade Value Global Leaders 2026 Index. Write to me at jacob@jacobshapiro.com if you want me and Marco to see what you have to say. Otherwise, take care of the people you love. Don't take our comments on these leaders too seriously, especially if they're the leaders of your country. Remember, ultimately, we are trying to talk about geopolitics, but also to be entertaining while doing so. Cheers and see you around. All right, kick us off, cousin. We're both wearing button-down white shirts. You look nice.
You look nice too. You look very nice. All right, so we are doing the second part. Of course, you've enjoyed the first part for an hour and a half. We stopped at 16. So you stopped with King Mohammed IV of Morocco, and my number 16 was Mohammed bin Salman. So I'm going to let you take over the next 5 from 15 to 10.
You don't want your wrong Muhammad there.
That's correct. I think it's Mohammed IV. Yeah, I think that's correct.
No, he's the 6th. He's the 6th.
Oh, is it? We both have it wrong.
VI, right?
It's VI. My bad. No, it's 4th. Oh yeah, my bad. You're right. The 6th. Oh, my bad. The guy I put as one of the top 10 leaders in the world died in 1873. So yes, correct. My bad. I apologize to His Excellency, the actual head of state and ruler of Morocco. It is the 6th, not the 4th. My bad.
Yeah, just remember who had your back, King Mohammed VI. Just remember.
Oh, come on. I want nice Marrakesh vacations too. Stop it. I enjoy Morocco. I love everything Moroccan. But yes, I have you higher, Your Excellency. He does have you as 16th. So, and I think that's where we ended. I said that I had Morocco as 9th, so the leader of Morocco is 9th on my list. But you're next, so 15 to 10. Go ahead, Jacob.
All right, 15 to 10. Yeah, I went through I went on a Middle East bender the last time we talked. I got all my Middle East picks out of my system. I don't think I have another Middle East pick coming, but here are some others. I know at least one of these might make you light your hair on fire. Coming at number 15, we already talked about him a little bit. This is where I've got Lula in Brazil. You know, if this is like the aging late star, maybe he's got a year or two left, but you know, the flaws are already there. How much can he really turn? We're doing a lot of past reputation rather than a lot of current policy. But I do think Brazil's in a good position. I think Brazil is in a good position in part because of Lula and because of the moves that he's made. You got to respect the track record there. And for all of his faults, and he has many faults. I mean, you know, we can go back to Operation Car Wash. We can go back to the leftism. We can go back to this what I think is a lack of aggressiveness when it comes to asserting some of Brazil's advantages. He's got Brazil in a good position. Like, Brazil's been going from strength to strength. Brazil is sort of meant for this multipolar world, and Lula saw it coming before many. So I give him the tip of the cap there. I think, did you already have Lula on your list, or was Lula not on your list?
No, remember we recorded the first part of this almost a week ago, so it's fine that you don't remember. But my quip about Lula was that he was like that crazy uncle, but he's like a liberal version of your crazy conservative uncle who says inappropriate, politically incorrect things. Lula, he's like the aggressive, crazy uncle, but on the other side of the ideological spectrum. And also, the player comp here, if we were doing this basketball, is like, you need someone who scores 25 points per game. You know, this is like your DeMar DeRozan. This is your, I don't know, Levine. Like, it's like whatever. I'm not sure I would put him at 15th. I think lower is better, but he has had a good 12 months, especially on the geopolitical front. And on the financial market front, like, Brazilian assets are on fire. I don't think he has anything to do with that, but he also has nothing to do against it. So, you know, I think you and I could have been presidents of Brazil, and like, markets would have been on fire.
I think that's the key point. Like, it's the degree of difficulty here is low. Like, Brazil has a lot of things going for it, and maybe the best thing we could say about Lula is that he hasn't screwed it up. Although he's going to have a chance to prove some of it now with some of the fertilizer issues that are coming because of Strait of Hormuz, and and what's coming in the upcoming election cycle, what it's going to mean for his legacy. He sort of has a Joe Biden moment here because there's nobody that Lula's going to pass the baton to who's going to really continue what he's doing, and he hasn't been able to do that. So that's why he is that aging, grizzled veteran, maybe going, chasing one more ring, but it's kind of empty calories at this point. But I do think there's just a basic level of competence there and a certain level of dignity and past performance that I'm not immune to. Which brings me to, this might be the most shocking name on the list for you, and I just can't quit him. And I wish he was my president, or I wish I was in a country that valued him. Hello, President Macron. I
Oh,
had you lower
wow.
last year. I want you here, and I want you here not necessarily
Wow.
because you're great at policy, but I just think he's, of the leaders out there, just pound for pound in terms of smarts. And when I say smarts, I mean thinking strategically, aka thinking like a cousin. I think Emmanuel thinks like a cousin. I think he's thinking on the right wavelength. I think he's thinking on the right policy wavelength, everything else. Now, he's super awkward. He has not been able to follow through on his policy. He's got all the weird stuff. Like, there's just a lot of skeletons in the closet. But man, like that scene of him, like, the somber Marseille in front of the nuclear submarine and positioning. I'm just here for it. I cannot help myself. I know
So,
you want to pick this one apart, so pick it apart.
no, I mean, look, he was my first honorable mention, so he didn't
Yeah.
make the cut. And I just think that it's difficult for me to reward someone who is, kind of sailing into the sunset in a inglorious way. I mean, everything you say is correct. I think he would be great on the pod, would welcome him on the pod. Uh,
Yeah.
you did pick him 16th last time, I think, or maybe 17th. So, no, 16th. So you are consistent on that. Yeah, I mean, he was the first on my on. He's like 31st, 32nd. So both Lula and Macron, I kind of am a little bit less enthusiastic, but they're in the top 35 of my leaders on the world, and there's a lot of countries in the world. So I'm not going to fight this.
Yeah, and I'm also just, I'm looking for like baseline levels of competence,
No,
like,
I get it.
and
I get
again,
it. Yes.
France like is a low degree of difficulty probably too, just in terms of the
No,
advantages you have
I think
relative to
it's a
most
high
nations in the
degree.
world.
No, I disagree with you. I think it's a very high degree of difficulty. He did something that nobody can really claim to have done other than the Magyars of the world, which is that he just created a party from scratch, took on two established parties, built a centrist
Mhm.
coalition with some teeth in it. Like, there's just from a legacy perspective and just, the pyramid and all that stuff, I think is amazing. But we're talking trade value right now. Um, I mean, I hear you. Like, if you're just living in, like, I don't know, like Romania, or if you're living in like Angola or Papua New Guinea, would you not want an educated technocrat who like knows how to navigate a balance sheet and a nuclear triad? Would you not want that? And I think that's the case you're making here. Now, the reason I've
Yeah.
penalized him, and I did have him in the top 30 last year, he was lower, 23rd on my list. He's not dropped out of the top 30, but he's like 31 on my list. I just penalized him because of where this is headed. And where it's headed is, it's not clear to me that he really has built a successor. It's not clear to me that he's like actually viably demonstrated the success of this centrist coalition because, obviously, um, Marine Le Pen's bloc is breathing down his neck still. He has not put that to bed. And he has not really improved France's productivity, the budget balance, deficits. I mean, all those things are still there. And so that's where
Yeah, no,
I've, you know,
he's a failure. I think by his own
oof.
metrics, he's a failure. But he tried. That is more than most can say. And your point is right. Like, it took a lot of skill to get where he was. Like, it
It's funny.
wasn't. He's not a nothing.
It's
When
funny
it comes
because
to that.
like he's like from a sports analogy perspective, he's like the guy who came in his 20s or even late teens and he just had everything. A shot, the height, the athleticism. And then his career was just kind of meh. And that's what like
Yeah, he's kind of like a Christian Leitner type, or if you really want to extend
nice.
the metaphor, like a Brandon Roy type, like just shot out like a shooting star, and then you have no cartilage in your knees, so you can't actually do any of the things that you want to do.
Well, by that
And that's what.
logic, is Jordan Bordello Damian Lillard? Like, is that what's
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it's
I
Dame
don't know.
time?
Who knows what's coming next?
Yeah, it's Marine Le Pen time. It's Le Pen time. Okay, you're next. 13th pick.
13. Daniel Noboa in Ecuador,
Oof, nice.
trying to do a soft Bukele version here. He's got Ecuador is one of these countries that is now at ground zero for the expansion of cartels and organized crime and criminal enterprises. He's a young guy. There was a great profile of him in the New Yorker, which shows some of his ambitions and also the darker sides of his ambitions and the way he falls flat. But he's very much, to me, styled as a sort of more self-aware Bukele who doesn't want to go full Bukele,
Mm.
but also wants to stop what's happening in terms of Ecuador. And it's a high degree of difficulty pick. I think the jury is still out. He's been trying to tack closer to the United States amidst everything that's been happening with Iran. You might have noticed that the United States talking about military cooperation with Ecuador. So he's also batting his eyelashes there and sort of accepting the United States as the leader in the Western Hemisphere. Very high degree of difficulty. Like it's going to be a very tough thing, and I appreciate the attempt at him pushing against the imperatives. And so far, like he's climbed the ladder quite a bit, so he gets my nod at 13.
Been a president since 23. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting pick. I don't hate it.
Okay.
Don't have a counter. It's really high. It's really high for someone who's been in power for 3 years and I barely know who they are, you know? But that
Well,
could be a me
that's
problem.
not his fault. That's
That's-
just because nobody cares about Ecuador and nobody writes about it. Like that's
I mean, I don't know. We've got
Don't
some
blame
we've
him.
got some pretty obscure people on this list and obscure countries. So, but it could be a Marco problem. It may not be a Daniel Noboa problem. All right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of obscure countries and obscure people, you've already had him. Here's where I have Shavkat Mirziyoyev of Uzbekistan going from strength to strength. You got a double landlocked country. There's only a few of them in the world. He took over for a dictator that was pretty ruthless. He's become a sort of enlightened dictator himself. Uzbekistan's got rising growth. It's doing good things in the context of Central Asia. He's popular with the expats that I talked to. I think he's been dealt a fairly difficult hand, and he's playing sort of everybody side by side. If you're thinking about, the new Silk Road and the creation of a Eurasian bloc as we go into a multipolar era, Uzbekistan's at the center of it. There's a reason that Samarkand and all these places that connected China and Europe with the Silk Road, like all roads lead through Uzbekistan in that sort of case. And I think he's positioned Uzbekistan in a very good place for that. And I think he's also just been a very good steward of the economy. He gets demerits for me because this is not a democracy. So if you put him in a democratic context, I'm not sure that he really works. You really need an authoritarian, light kind of model for him to work. So in that guy, he's a system president. Like he needs to go the right system. You're not going to just plug him into any country and he's going to work. But if you've got the right system, if you're going to let Shavkat be Shavkat, I think you've got a pretty good pick and that the pros outweigh the cons. And then 11-10, let's go to East Asia for a second. I think...
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, please.
I'm sorry to stop you. I just want to
Please.
double dip, just like I did with Mohammed VI of Morocco, who's actually, I apologize, he's number 10, not 9. Not sure why I made a mistake. My number 9 is Shavkat Mirziyoyev.
Okay, there you go.
The reason I brought him up earlier is that in our first part of this, I reviewed the winners, like the good bets that you and I have picked.
Oh, right.
That's the context. And we both had a Central Asia leader. I think mine was a hit. So I had Tokayev of Kazakhstan as 6th. The reason I didn't give myself a lot of props for that is because I picked him 6th. I think that Tokayev had a great season. He had a great 12 months. Nothing to, say like what went wrong with Kazakhstan. I just don't think he really deserved number 6 pick. But you did pick Mirziyoyev. I'm sorry.
Mirziyoyev.
You did pick him 14th, and I think that was correct. And now you've picked him even higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've nailed it. And so I picked him actually 9th. And so a couple of things that I thought he has. So he came to power 10 years ago, a decade. And during that decade, he's pursued a series of market-oriented reforms straight out of 1994. Like this guy has completely missed the memo that he's supposed to be a ruthless authoritarian autocrat who leans towards the right-wing Peronist playbook. Instead, he's privatized state enterprises. He's liberalized trade. He's reduced barriers to foreign businesses. I mean, it's like he stumbled into a library and read some like World Bank like book, you know? He's doing everything that everyone in the West is like abandoning. So he is just like, no, you know what? I do think neoliberalism works because we're at a level of development that like that's what we need. And so yeah, I mean, he's put Uzbekistan. He's made it a centerpiece of the Middle Corridor, which is the strategic route helping Europe avoid passing through Russia. So this is the east-west corridor you're talking about. Um, as concerns, I also had that he was reelected in 2023 with 88.61% of the vote, and that
It's
his
still
man.
Central Asia.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And his mandate runs through 2030. So by 2030, he will have been in power for 14 years. Those are some red flags. Also, one other thing about Uzbekistan, I created this like Claude dashboard where I wanted to know over the last 12 months which economies outperformed the IMF expectations. And by the way, if IMF was good at making forecasts about economic growth, like there would be investors. They don't. They make mistakes all the time, but it's interesting to see where IMF like underestimated growth expectations over the last 12 months. And Uzbekistan came as the 11th most surprising growth story. So the economy is also doing well. And I don't think that's just natural resources. Like the top 5 on the list of surprising growth stories, they're all just like oil, energy, natural gas. With Uzbekistan, there's obviously a lot of that, but there is all this other stuff as well. Like tourism is exploding, trade is exploding. So shout out. I mean, like and the reason that I'm shouting him out is because he's a throwback. He's like a NBA player who like wants to score in the post in
Yeah,
2026.
he's got a post game.
He's got a post
Yeah.
game. He's a guy who's like, no, you know what? I'm going to play this like it's 94 and liberalism works. And I don't mean liberalism like let's have like gender free like bathrooms. I mean liberalism in terms of like liberalize the economy, privatize public enterprises. So shout out to that. Great pick last year, Jacob. You crushed this. And he's still in your top 20. He's now in my top 10.
Which means he'll probably be high in the combined list. And then I'll round out 11 to 10. I think you already took South Korea's new leader Lee Jae-myung. I don't think we need to address him any
We
further. I
did, yeah.
mean,
We had a
I'm
great,
impressed.
great story about him. Yes, he stormed the barricades. I mean, anyone who does that in 2025, like, yeah. So great. He's 11. He was number
And then
21 for
10,
me. Yeah,
10, I think I took Shigeru Ishiba around this spot last
you
year, and
did.
things didn't go so well for him. And I talked about, and I stole this from our cousin Tobias Harris, about how he was always going to be a tragic figure, like, and he plays into this trope of tragic figures in Japanese history who fail to achieve the thing that they wanted, and that's an archetype of a type of Japanese hero, which I relate to very deeply, by the way. But I'm putting Takaichi here because she comes out of nowhere. She's a woman who's running Japan, which by
Mm.
itself tells you we're dealing with a lot of firepower here. I mean, it's like kind of Margaret Thatcher taking over Great Britain, but on steroids. Like, this is a very male dominated environment that she has come in and just cleaned up on, and has massive support. And unlike, I mean, I like Toshiba because he was sort of the rogue wild card. I mean, this is a terrible analogy, but like if you're in the United States, like the John McCain of Japan, somebody who's out there, he's a maverick, he's doing his own thing. One of the reasons he got elected was because he wasn't tainted with the corruption scandals that the LDP was dealing with. Neither was Takaichi, but she comes in with a much broader mandate, with much more expansive goals, with how she wants to push back against the Bank of Japan and the finance ministry. She wants to take her mentor Shinzo Abe's plans and realize them. She wants to change the constitution. She's going to talk about Taiwan. If China doesn't like it, screw China. Like, she's going at
What
it.
if
We're going to sell
Taiwan?
weapons again.
What if Taiwan doesn't like it? She's like, I don't care. I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah. She's Japan. Like, this is Japan. Japan will do what it needs to do, and she wants Japan to be back. So I think she has an incredibly high degree of difficulty, just like Ishiba did. But she's going for it, and I respect the political instincts of an operator who, a woman like rising to the top of democratic power in Japan. Like, okay, like you're already on the list just with that achievement, and everything else bumps her up to the top 10. So.
All right. Yeah. I mean, her popularity remains pretty elevated right now. So, I don't hate the pick. I think for a newcomer, it's really high. But at least in terms of in terms of volatility, she's there. She's in the news flow. So I'll give you that. But I do not have her on the list. And I did not have, it's just stuff. like other than Abe, maybe in 2013, 2014, it's tough for me to say that any Japanese leader has really impressed me over the past decade and a half. So I'm going to reserve judgment on this one. This is like I'm just biased against Japanese leaders, the way some coach might be biased against 3-and-D players, or like against undersized power forwards. I just don't want to play them in my system. I need to be convinced. Um, so I'm just gonna,
Or
I'm
or
gonna
I'm
wait.
reaching. I could definitely be reaching. I could be Pat Riley, and I'm trying to trade 4 first-round picks for Justice Winslow or whatever it was that he did, or was it Danny Ainge who was trying to do that? I forget. Like I'm reaching here. I'm going on future potential. But
I think there's a element where you like Japan. I think you know about Japan, and we all have our biases that way. So yeah, I mean that's fine. Okay.
I also just think Japan is a really well-run country. John Arnold had a tweet the other day that was like, "Gosh, I forget exactly what it was, but the substance of the tweet was something like, "Can you imagine if our country had to deal was governed like Japan is?" And I retorted back to him. I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to live in a country that was governed like Japan is. Are you kidding me? Like, have you seen the streets of Japan? Have you seen how well everything works? Have you seen the attention to detail? Like, sounds good to me. Like, I'm good. Like, but that's Japanese
So I
culture
agree
and
with you.
society. We shouldn't.
No, I do really work with that. I do really think about that as well. And I think the reason you're right about that is that we kind of understate the part of Japan that runs well. I'm not sure to what extent their political leadership is to thank for that.
That's fair.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to pick somebody who may not be in power within
Mm.
weeks. So Mette Frederiksen from Denmark.
Uh,
She did make my list last time because of the hints that she would handle Trump well, just the hints of it. And of course, that was quite prescient as she crushed that part of her mandate this year. Um, and I would just say, like, look at Denmark. Denmark is crushing it. I mean, they've got a surplus. Their debt to GDP is a ludicrous 30% of GDP. I didn't even know that it's that low. Like, well done. But Danes, they're tough customers. They got high standards, and so she actually did not win a clear mandate in the election that just took place a couple of months ago. And a couple of months ago is the operative like descriptor here because the coalition talks are not going well for her. And so I'm sort of putting her here at number 15 with the expectation that she may very well have to retire or get traded, if you will, in the sports parlance. But I do think that she's done enough to deserve to be here because basically being threatened by the president of the United States of America with an invasion, even though it was kind of funny to a lot of us, like, haha, that's cute, wasn't that cute. And I've been told by people in the know that she even took some bold steps to actually reinforce Greenland's security. And while that sounds hilarious, of course, because you're not going to fight Delta forces, but reinforce Danish security in a way that would have embarrassed the United States of America and its military for the rest of humanity, because they would have had to like effectively like shoot allies, and that would have ended that. So she created like an actual trap for Trump to fall into, and it's good for him that he didn't fall into it. I'm not going to say
yeah,
more of that because that's kind of
I
speculation, but just want to point that
yeah,
out.
no, I had her on my list last year, and she fell off this year, and I could give you some brilliant take for why it did. Honestly, I didn't notice her playing out there. She was on the floor, and we go through stages where I just don't even see that she's on the floor doing anything. So yeah, like props to doing things with Greenland. Also, like they were all empty threats, and you control everything anyway. So, but yeah, I had her last year, and she dropped off for me. There's probably an inconsistency there, but I wasn't impressed with the last 12 months.
Interesting. Huh. I don't think you did have her actually.
I think I did. I think I had her around 12. I'm looking at my list from last year right now.
No,
Are
you
you
had
looking at the combined list?
yeah, so the combined list she was there, but she was actually quite yeah, she was 60 she was 39th on the combined list because you did not have her there.
Oh, I think I have her. I'm looking at my old list right now, but
Okay. Maybe you just replaced Kai Kallas with Atif Fredriksson in your head.
Well, I thought maybe I did. Maybe I deleted her because I thought I was just going to give Estonia a liberal hawk. That's totally
It's
possible.
okay. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. The point is, okay, so she did. I guess I overstated, her role in the Denmark thing and standing up to President Trump. But yeah, I mean, she did worse in the election than the previous ones, and that is ultimately a sign that something's not working. Next one is Xi Jinping. I did not have him in my list last year at all. That was an oversight. You had Xi Jinping number 6. I have a suspicion he's going to be higher this year. Feel free to interject.
Your suspicion is correct. He has ascended.
Well,
Not
look,
not quite all the way, but he has ascended.
I mean, look, he's managed to navigate. I mean, this is truly the art of war. Never get in the way of your enemy defeating itself. China is crushing everyone in exports, just crushing, and no one's doing anything about it because we're too busy trying to invade Greenland and, surprised that Iran has control of Hormuz, which it always has. And in 47 years, no one's tried to do regime change because of that. But like somehow this is now news. So there's all this other stuff going on. Meanwhile, China's just eating everyone's lunch in terms of industrial competency and exports. This is, I think, the Jaylen Brown of geopolitics, Xi Jinping. Just, an MVP season that nobody even knows it was an MVP season, but somehow the Celtics are the best team in the East. Like, no one talks about Jaylen Brown. Everyone's not talking about Tatum being back. Like, China is just quietly the elephant in the room that's crushing everyone. Um, so yeah, I mean, like Jaylen Brown of geopolitics in that, happy to pick up the finals MVP, which seems like something that actually matters. Um,
Yeah, so I'll step on myself and just say I have him at number 2.
there we
He's
go.
not my number
Please
1,
tell
but
us.
he's my number 2.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing you can say against him is that he's not preparing for what happens afterwards.
Yes,
Like my biggest
exactly.
risk when it comes to China is what happens
100%.
if he slips on a banana peel tomorrow. At the same time, he's been ahead on everything, and one of the ways in which I really part company with Uncle Peter's Ihun here is the thing that's most impressive to me about Xi Jinping is I actually feel like he has demonstrated the ability to change. He makes mistakes and then he changes
Ooh,
based
that's a good
on the
point.
mistake. And it takes him too long. Like it took him too long with zero COVID to recognize that it was a
Yes,
bad idea, but eventually he changed. It took him too long to realize that he had let loose the wolf warrior diplomats, but he changed. It took him too long to realize that he was crushing innovation when he went after some of the tech guys, but he's also
he
changed
changed.
there.
Yeah,
So that there's a reaction function that is maybe not quick enough, but the reaction function is there. And I do think, like, some of his corruption purges, this is just straight up purging his rivals, but I think some of it is actually really purging corruption. And I think that he's really nicely kind of walking the needle there. You say Jaylen Brown. I actually think my comp for Xi Jinping right now is Allen Iverson. Just like great, supremely talented, like setting pace, but not a team player. Like this is the Allen Iverson show. You got all the treatises about Xi Jinping thought and contributions to everything else. Like we got a little Mao that's creeping in there. And what happens when AI gets hurt or when he stays out partying too long or anything else like that? Like things are not going to go so well. But man, I don't think you can argue that he has been anything less than a strategic thinker, a very adept operator, somebody who, despite the challenge of governing China, is doing particularly well. He's overseen like a slow popping of a real estate bubble. Like how many leaders of countries are able to pop a real estate bubble like China's and continue to go and continue to do the things they want to do? So like, I just think degree of difficulty high. I think he's doing an incredible job. And if he could figure out how to do all of that and also have a successor waiting in the wings, like he would probably jump the list for me. But I just think a high degree of competence at the top of the Chinese government, and coming from somebody who nobody expected this from. Like Xi Jinping did not have a first round grade in the Chinese Communist Party. He was the afterthought. He was the
yeah, he was
compromise
like a
between all of
three-star
the other different
three-star
candidates.
recruit, not a 5-star. Look, I think we just need to list a few things that have happened. Like, first of all, Chinese exports have skyrocketed. Second, they've electrified their entire economy faster than anyone thought. Like, the electricity
Mhm.
production is through the roof, and they don't care. They do coal and solar. They don't have some stupid ideological like commitment to green energy and ESG like Europeans do, nor do they have even dumber commitment to dead dinosaur liquid like the Americans do. They're just like, we'll take fucking anything. And God bless them for that. Just bathe in complete aloof indifference. AI and EVs. On EVs, they're obviously crushing everyone. On AI, they're not. necessarily crushing America, but they're like, doing their best to catch up. They've done some domestic semiconductor production. It's not American level. It's not bad. And finally, they've expanded military installations in South China Sea. But somehow, despite everything I just rattled off, it's the United States of America that has become the rogue state in the eyes of the entire planet. In other words, the Chinese are eating Europeans' lunch on car manufacturing. They're developing like South China Sea military installations. But because of this adept diplomacy and understanding that wolf warrior diplomacy in particular, I mean, great pick, by the way, for something he changed. That's a really good point, Jacob. Like cutting that through, that was like obvious, and he did it. But it's not obvious to other countries. And so, yeah, he does deserve high marks. For me, why is he 14th and not top 5? I think it's what you said. There is a lot still that needs to be done. And there are some things that I would say are a product of the regime that he's been in charge of China for 14 years. You can't talk about like the credit and leverage orgy and just say, oh, it was the previous administration. No, no, no. That went on under him too. It was really 2018 that he started focusing on deleveraging. I mean, there are reasons why China doesn't have any domestic demand. And in fact, I would argue he's left China quite open to and vulnerable to potential trade action by Europe, by the global south, by America. And so there's still more to be done. All right, my next one is Javier Milei. So
you can have him.
I can have him. Yeah, I hear that. The election is coming up in, I think, 18 months. He's had some setbacks in 2025, particularly the election in Buenos Aires. I was there for that, which was really interesting. He's had some bizarre scandals involving his sister, which is just that whole sentence is like, come on, brother, you can do better than that. And also the economy is starting to contract and inflation is back. And he's now ahead of the election in a conundrum. Does he nail down the inflation or does he let the economy recover? So he is losing popularity. He's my only leader in the top 15 that's actually had an economy that's underperformed expectations. But I still think that what he's done is the degree of difficulty is enormous. And just because of that, yeah, I would trade a lot of people that have gone below him for him. This is sort of the same argument you have, for example, for Macron. His degree of difficulty is just through the roof. Also, one thing that he did do this year, which I thought he wouldn't be able to, is labor reforms. So it's easy to crush inflation. It actually is. It really is. You just destroy demand, you raise interest rates. He did that, God bless you. But to actually then start breaking down the underlying reasons why the economy has had supply problems, which consistently lead to inflationary outcomes, he's actually started to do that. I did not expect him to do that in the first term. I thought that was more of a second term thing. So I do still see that he's swinging for the fences, and I like that. I just, I want my leaders swinging for the fences, and I want them fighting against those material constraints. And I think nobody's done really more of that, not a better job, but more of that than Milei.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier. I mean, he fell off my list entirely because I just can't stomach the crypto pump and dump scandal.
Okay.
Like I was like, thanks, I'm good. But like I think it's somewhat of an overreaction. Everything you say is true. There was a certain like with his craziness, there was a certain level of ideological, I don't know, consistency or legitimacy, and he just sold it all upriver to me when he was, not only was he enriching himself, then he was like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You knew what you were doing. Like, stop it, man. Like, you're telling us about how you're communing with your dead dog. Like, you're an open book. Like, we understand what's going on. Like, you did it. Like, I get it. You're enriching yourself now that you're in power. Power reveals. It doesn't corrupt. And you revealed something I don't like. So.
Okay, so I'm going to fly through my next 4 picks because 2 I already took from you and made that clear. So my 10th pick was Mohammed VI, not the ancestor from the 19th century, the 4th. And then, of course, Uzbekistan's Shavkat M. So I don't butcher his last name. He's 9th. So who are my... so I'm missing here 12 and 11. I talked about these guys last year. I have a soft spot for Jordan. Probably best years of my childhood were there under the rule of his father, the late, great King Hussein, who is, I mean, if you want, a 1950s Bond villain / Bond himself, quite frankly. just a good-looking dude in a leather jacket on a Harley with a haughty wife, just crushing it, surviving by the good graces of Pakistan and the United States, who saved him from the PLO. His son, King Abdullah II, was not expected to be this good. Had a cameo at Star Trek. Just, you want to talk about degree of difficulty? You tried running a country that's 75% Palestinian and maintaining decent relationship with Israel. I mean, as well as you can. Has been attacked by Iran several times now because of various reasons that have nothing to do with Amman's policy. So I just think degree of difficulty itself, King Abdullah II, you can be my leader anytime. And then above him, another guy that I picked last year as well. I don't think you did, but maybe you did actually. I think we both. Actually, I don't know. Did you? Maybe not. Anwar Ibrahim in Malaysia, and let me tell you why.
No, I didn't. He's yours. He's
Okay,
yours.
and let me explain why. Malaysia's just crushing it. Honestly, they're living off of transshipment of all sorts of shady crude to China and Chinese product to the rest of the world. Effectively, it's leveraged to a multipolar world. And it's a country that has had really robust growth. It's one of the best performing countries in terms of economy over the last 12 months, according to my overperformance, underperformance measure that I used AI for. And they've started to see a lot of investment coming in for its back-end chip processing, legacy chips as they're sometimes called. Is just, like, well run, and it's done really well. So yeah, I'm picking Anwar Ibrahim as number 11, and then Morocco 10, Uzbekistan 9.
Yeah, I have no good rejoinders to either of them. I mean, I think King Abdullah is a particularly good pick. Jordan shouldn't exist on paper. Like, if you think about geopolitics and all the things that are important to us, like, it literally should not exist. There's no way that that country should still be functioning, and it is. So, like, hats off to the Hashemites. You've done a terrific
Well,
job.
I mean, the Hashemites, for those of you who don't know the history, they ruled the Hijaz in Saudi Arabia, which includes Mecca, Medina. They were kind of like removed by the British and the Al Saud family, and they were given various territories in the Middle East as a compensation. I believe Iraq and Syria were the two others, but I might be wrong about Syria.
Mhm.
Anyways, the point is, all they have left is Jordan, and I mean, it's an incredibly run place that works and does not have any natural resources. So if you're thinking out there, oh, it's just another royal house in the Middle East swimming in oil.
Mm-mm.
No, false. Nothing. Other than phosphates, like, this country has nothing. It's just ingenuity, it's just tourism, and it's adept playing of geopolitics. All right, my friend, we are now in the top 10. Let's see if we can crush
We
this in
are.
the next 30 minutes. I don't think we will, but it's okay if we don't. It's okay. We still have
No,
more
no,
time.
because I've only got 15 minutes. So I think we should try
Okay.
and get to maybe let's get to 6, and then we can
Yes,
close
let's do
it
that.
and do our top 5 next one.
Cool.
Okay. So at 9, I'm going to have another out there one. This is Bernardo Arevalo of Guatemala.
Wow.
If you have not been following your Guatemalan politics, this is a guy who took on the system. He's a crusader against corruption. They tried to keep him down. They couldn't quite do it. Think of him as Bukele, but liberal. Like, he's trying to change Guatemala without guns, but trying to do it through the rule of law. He will probably fail. But I am rooting for Bernardo Arevalo. He's had to assemble quite a coalition of support in Guatemala. I think it helps that Guatemala, sort of like in Argentina that turned to Milei, things got so bad that they were willing to turn to somebody who had a new vision and wanted to try and make change. This is somebody who's making change. So if you want to see a leader go up against constraints and want to do so in a way that is not just cutthroat, which is what I think many of our leaders are, I think Arevalo is your guy. I think he's an interesting guy to keep an eye on. At 8, we already talked about it a little bit. This is my boring pick. This is just Lawrence Wong
Okay.
of Singapore. Just, just the tactician. Like, if you just want just the facts, just give me my 20 points and my 10 rebounds and my 3 assists every single day. I just want consistency. Like, I'm going to take Lawrence Wong. He's been bred. I don't mean that like in an actual way. I mean, like, the political system has bred him to be this thing that is perfect for the system, and I'm sure he'd fit into lots of others. And rounding into the top 5 at 7, I think you had her a bit lower, and I don't know that I had her. Did I have her at all last time, or did I have her lower down? I can't remember now. Hold on, let me look at my old list here. Maybe I'm not. No. I have her
Meloni.
exactly where I had her last
7,
year. I'm
yeah.
going to give Meloni. I'm going to give her a nod. I think everything you said about her is true. I think she's made some missteps. I think that referendum misstep was a big one. She's also paying the price for aligning a little bit closer to Trump now, in the context of everything that's happened with Iran. Also, in the context of everything that happened with Greenland, like all of her past decisions sort of look weird now that the United States is pushing here. But this is still Italy, and I still think she's like holding good cards, and I think she's doing
That's fair.
a fairly good job
Yeah.
overall. So I'm not
Yeah,
ready to push her out quite yet.
she like got the Sacramento Kings to the playoffs, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. 6?
And at number 6, again, she's right. She fell a spot or two for me, but here's where I'm going to have Claudia Sheinbaum. And it's a similar story to last year. She's a technocratic successor to AMLO. She still has to prove a lot on herself. I think in the pro camp for her is that she has managed the relationship with Donald Trump and the United States extremely well. She's done it very differently than Canada has, and as Mark Carney has, but I think she's managed it well. When Trump says the border's a problem, she's like, great, how many Mexican security officials and would you like there? When the United States says we don't want things from China coming in to Mexico into the United States, she's like, great, how high would you like us to raise our tariffs so that we're in line with the United States? Do you want us to raise them higher? She's a sort of, how high do you want us to jump? Like, we'll jump as high as you want us to. At the domestic level, she's had some problems. We've had some protests. We've had some pushback. The Mexican economy not doing great. And there's a lot of just hard work that has to be done in order for Mexico to capture all of this FDI and interest in Mexico in the context of North America. But again, like you're dealing with a high degree of difficulty. I think also, like, we'll see if that assassination of El Mencho a couple months ago, I'm bullish on that. I think that was actually maybe a sign that the Mexican government is getting, I'm not saying they're getting rid of the cartel problem, but that they're going to find the cartels they can work with and try to get rid of the cartels that they can't work with and try and get some level of stability and predictability there for Mexican business people. I'll also just say that I've spent not a significant, but some time in Mexico over the last 12 months. And many people like her, and even the people that don't like her say nice things about her. Say like, oh, she impressed me. Like, yeah, I don't agree with her. I think she's got lots of problems. I don't like AMLO. I don't like Morena. But you know what? She's done an okay job. I have to say, given the cards that she's been dealt, she's done an okay job. So when even your opponents are sort of tipping the cap and saying, hey, like she's doing the best that she can, like that means something to me too. So she drops a little bit. I'm not quite satisfied with what's happening at the domestic level. But overall, I think she's done a pretty good job, and I wouldn't mind having her as my leader.
So I'm going to go higher for her. So I'm just going to tell you what it is. She's number 2 for me. So she's, I think, an incredible leader. I really do. Mexican economy was the 3rd most surprising growth story, according to Claude, in 2025.
I stand corrected then.
So that's, but no, you're right. Like she did face protests, but her polling numbers are actually insane. It's like Central Asian Uzbekistan level, like 70-80% approval level. She's had a huge drop in homicide rates across Mexico, lowest since 2016, although there has been dispute about those numbers. Nonetheless, I think the economic growth definitely is part of the story, and some of that was not in any way connected to her. Remittances have been strong from the US. But in other ways, yeah, I mean, it has been. Like, she and Canada, both Canada and Mexico, won the trade war. They won the trade war, not against America. That's not who you're fighting against. They won against the rest of the world for access to the largest market in the world. And obviously, USMCA is up for renegotiations. Maybe I'll have an egg on my face for this number 2 pick. But she remains very high on my list. Last year, I also had her number 2. I feel comfortable with that. I'm happy I picked her number 2. You picked her number 5, and she was our combined leader at number 1 with Meloni at number 2. So it does look like she will be top 5 again. We'll see where she lands. Your number 5, do you want to give us that?
Yeah, I'll give you my 5, and then you can maybe get up to 5, and then we'll have to call it. I had him lower last time, and I'm questioning the pick now that I look at it, but I'm going to put Narendra Modi here.
Okay.
And he's a veteran. Like, this is probably the last term. And I think that, based on his ambitions when he came to office and what he's been able to accomplish, I think he's fallen short of his own metrics, but he's also done quite a bit. And I think he's also been able to change with the world changing around him. I mean, India was very clearly aligning itself with the United States, especially in the first Trump administration. I'm sure everybody remembers the Trump-Modi bromance and the howdy Modi stuff that was happening inside the United States. He got left at the altar by President Trump in the second term. President Trump is fascinated by Pakistan and all these other things and says he's bringing peace to the Pakistan-India war. He's just doing all these things.
I have that exact
to
same
piss
thing.
India off.
Yes, I have that exact same issue. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. And Modi's turning around and saying like, okay, hey, Xi Jinping, let's solve our border issue and let's start trading again. Vladimir, you need to get rid of some oil. I'm happy to buy your oil. Bring your oil to me. I want to get in there. Even Iran, Iran had a ship that got sunk in the Indian Ocean. India not so happy about that because they invited the Iranian ship to those exercises and sort of played all the cards correctly. So I think he's doing a good job. I think India has lots of issues. I think India is one of the countries I worry about the most if the strait stays closed for another 2 or 3 months. I think when you start talking about fertilizer and energy, like, yes, he's got access. He can tap Vladimir, and yes, he can do some other things. But especially when it comes to food, India is going to be very exposed. I don't know if you saw this. Did I send this to you? We might have talked about it on a recent podcast. Just that, the story of India for decades, sort of like Brazil, has been this is a country that needs infrastructure, and it's no secret what infrastructure it needs. You just need to actually do it. And they're starting to ascend, sort of some global rankings on infrastructure. Not for all of it. Like, we still need to work on rail and a lot of things internal, but the ports are starting to get a lot more efficient, and they're starting to become, sort of top of class when it comes to those things. So I'm seeing signs that, hey, maybe the infrastructure is coming, maybe the investment is coming, maybe Modi has finally got the ship of India pointed in a positive direction. So there you are. I'm elevating Modi to my top 5, and I don't know that I feel great about it, but I look at the rest of the list and I'm looking at them and I'm like, I think he deserves to be up here. I think he's been underappreciated.
You had him number 6 last time, so it's not that much of a leap. I had him lower, and I'm sorry for that. I penalized Modi because he is probably the best at playing a multipolar world, but India's had the most practice. They've always tried to do that. And so that's why I penalized them kind of last year, and I wasn't thrilled with some of the reforms, like they didn't go far enough. Anyways, all of that is out of the I had him at 3. I feel bad, I think I think both you and I kind of don't want to put Modi because it's not an expert pick, like Bernardo Arevalo from Guatemala. Like, that is an expert pick.
Yeah, I'm showing off there.
Yeah, exactly. And my mom would be like, isn't Modi kind of good? That's how she talks. I'm just kidding. She would take a drag of a cigarette and be like, Modi, India. So that's why I think, hesitate, because it's kind of an obvious pick. But hey, you got to go with what makes sense. So he's number 3. We can revisit it in the next one.
Thank you for listening to part 2 of our Trade Value Index for 2026. One more part to come. We're going to do the rest of the top 5, and then we're going to rehash our list from last year, what we learned, what we didn't learn, and do our combined list. Jacob at jacobshapiro.com if you want to email us. Cheers, and see you out there.